Good morning, and good morning. Welcome here to the B stream, where you are joined by one of the first special times in the start of the mix match, all of the pick and mix of casters, and Heron, and me, Flute. Hello.
Hello.
How are you this morning?
Tired.
Oh, do you know what day it is?
Today.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, it is.
It is Valentine's Day. They've brought us together. I think I'm just going to quickly commemorate how lonely and alone you are on this wonderful Valentine's Day. I've run out of film. We also have other games that will be on in front of us. The first of which today is the return to form of maybe G2, back off of a win yesterday on Stream A up against FearX. That'll be our lead-in. Obviously, there is a Stream A and a Stream B. We are on the Bravo if you're somehow here by accident. Followed by DZNIP, Virtus Pro MAT, W7M, and Bleed.
Yeah. That's
all the teams that we have on this side. On the A stream, as you can see on the left-hand side of your graphic, if you go past that Blitz shield. Where's Blitz? I don't know. Enjoying Valentine's.
Did you see any Blitz in your matches yesterday?
Yes, I
did too.
I saw Joystick playing Blitz.
What?
No. Crazy.
Not good.
You've got, obviously, on the A stream currently, FaZe Clan versus Space Station Gaming with the romance partners of Ace and Dez. Taking you through that. Wolves and Bliss will be the introduction of our Aussie cousin.
They make their debut. They make their casting debut.
Cousin Xenox make their debut. Can you do... That's South African. Can you do Australian?
No.
I can do an impression of you.
Okay, do it.
I hate everything.
Wow, that's really good. I don't know how you piped my own voice into my ears, but that was excellent.
I have secrets. I have secrets in ways. Have you just seen... You're like an owl that's like seen itself and gone...
FearX's roster. Please.
FearX's roster. Now, you might be thinking, what's the big deal with FearX? Because let's be honest, they've had the roughest year possible. They've not been able to win a game at an international event this year. They've not been able to try and put anything on the boards. The change that might be the path of the course here is Rin coming back into a Korean roster after a stint with Varel in the Japan League, and they are going to try and break the deadlock. The deadlock being FearX's inability to attack. They're slow, they don't quite have confidence, and the lead-in is, well, potentially Rin from their days at the top of DK.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and watch how Rin played on DK, I don't necessarily know how this will translate to this FearX roster on an international stage. I mean, Rin had some really incredible looks on that, Damwon Kia roster way back, but it's been a while since Rin has played at a top level, and there were issues with Rin's playstyle. Specifically, the amount of times on Damwon Kia that we would find Rin out of position or playing for themselves instead of actually playing with the rest of the team. And I think that was a major issue as to why Rin got moved off of that Damwon Kia roster. I'm very interested to see how this iteration of this team plays, because you go back, the lineage of this FearX roster is that old Mantis FPS, Element Mystic, Cloud9 roster, way back in the day, Sandbox most recently. And they've been at every single live event, but they really haven't done anything.
No, and I think that's the big problem, is when we've had this new region system, we've had some amazing show-ups from sort of MENA teams, we've had some new brand spanking performances from Japan teams we've never been able to see. You've got SEA having huge plays as well. Korea as a region has struggled. There's no two ways about it, and this is such a talented roster on paper. However, the comparisons of this FearX to back when they used to be the sort of top dog of the region, when they were known as Sandbox Gaming, or even before that, the only remaining player is Good Boy, who was at the time the child prodigy, the one who played the major the day he turned 18, sort of set up. Now he's the captain, the IGL, and he's got a huge team up against him today.
And if FearX wants to beat G2, he doesn't need to just be a good boy. He needs to be a great boy.
He needs to be the best boy.
The best boy humanly possible. Here's the standings from yesterday, obviously.
Yep.
FearX, the one team that had yesterday off. Ninjas in Pajamas started off yesterday playing against G2. Dark Zero played against GK. And you can see the score lines on the screen. I mean, do I need to say them out loud? Fine, I guess I'll.
No, but what we can do is talk about G2. They opened yesterday. They are your reigning hammer wielders, the swingers, the champions, and the top dogs. And they kind of, I'm not going to say proved it, but had a good performance. It was against NIP. They were able to get themselves to 2-0. It was a bit back and forth, but the mental game, that is the sort of storyline that is being followed on this roster. They've said it themselves in the documentaries, we love to be the bad guys, and nobody is more villain than, surprisingly, Alamau, the IGL team captain, the once darling child waking up there of the region, went over to
Good morning,
EU.
Carl.
Good morning, Carl.
It's nice to see you, Carl. Good morning.
Yep. And, well, he is... It's not entirely sort of, obviously fair to say all the pressure's on him, but playing back in your home region as the IGL of a team that's the reigning champion, as the player where, to be honest, your home region kind of wants you to lose against the full Brazilian rosters, there's no one with more pressure on him here.
I mean, he already woke up and tweeted about Bitcoin this morning. So, I mean, hey, if you want to dislike Carl and you don't like cryptocurrency, there's your reason. Right
what
there.
was the
It's
tweet?
relatively low-hanging fruit. So low that even Doki could pick it off of a tree. We've got the map veto for you. You're wondering where we're going to play, and we're just going to display it right in front of your very eyes. Map number 1, we're going to go to Oregon, then Chalet. I don't necessarily know if we're going to need a third map between these two teams. With the way G2's been playing and the expectations of FearX, probably is likely that we will forego Skyscraper for the moment. The most played map yesterday was Clubhouse. It has been omitted. Chalet was played a ton yesterday, too.
Yeah. Well, this is the worry because, let's be honest, I'm going to sit you down. I'm going to put your honesty hat on.
Yeah.
No one expects a lot from FearX here.
Spanish Inquisition?
They haven't been able to have any Inquisition. They haven't even had the inquiry of how do we win a single map at this point. G2 should roll through this in 2 maps. The only sort of possibility here is on Oregon, there is moments of FearX. Wow, 7%.
7%.
There is moments of FearX having a little bit of drive, having a little bit of sort of energy into a game. They've built on the back of Oregon. Chalet, even though it's their pick, I'm a little bit more worried for, and I have to sort of scroll back and double check, but I think that was a map where they got 07 at the most recent major.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you're G2 and you have the map pool that you have, I think it's a relatively safe bet that you're going to do well pretty much anywhere you go. And this is something that we talk about with all of these kind of legacy teams that make it to every single event, every single major, that play competitively towards the top of their regional leagues, is that, yeah, it might not be your map choice, but at the end of the day, you're still going to be a good team on it. I mean, take a look at, I love to reference this one, the Los DZ match all the way back in Atlanta. You know, DZ picked Skyscraper and they got smoked 7-0 on it. So just because it's your map doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win. Certainly doesn't mean you're going to even play well. Operator bans are locked in. Buck and Thatcher removed as the 2 attacking operators. I like the Buck ban. I mean, obviously, Buck brings a ton of utility to this map because of the fact that he will often use that secondary can opener, as it's referred to as, the secondary hard breach gadget. Not uncommon, especially if you're attacking down below, to see Buck bring that as a secondary and then be used on the hatches inside of meeting. If you're going to bring another hard breacher, you might bring somebody like a Thermite to try and pressure over towards blue if you want. You've also got Ace or Hibana that can work. The absolutely necessary Ace tends to be the one hard breacher that we see a fair bit. Gesture towards the right side of the screen at the moment. G2 are actually lacking a dedicated hard breacher, but I have to imagine the Capitao will bring that secondary hard breach gadget at minimum.
Alamau maybe as well.
Alamau might be. I believe Lion has it, even though we don't see him run it usually. I think
6
it's the pocket
can openers.
I think it's the pocket EMP that gets brought. So there's flexibility there on G2's side of things.
5 seconds left.
They're bringing a hard breacher. There you go. Uno has swapped off to go with the Hibana, which is nice. Alamau is immediately starting on Blitz. And they're going to be immediately off to the races.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't an out there strategy. Get the Blitz in, get this broken down, open up the game and sort of say, hello, we're going to play this. The air jab just above the door, straight through on the Fenrir. They're getting the wall reinforced, and I mean, that's all that they can do. They've done a little bit perfectly there. The rotation round onto Pit. Benja's able to get himself one here as they get rid of the Fenrir mine. They let the player stay on, but he has been removed at this point. The early body gone. Full control currently of lobby, but there is the rotation of the players back down. Rin, as I said, the new addition to the roster, the new pickup from an old steady hand, has been in that Korean team that got further than any other Korean team, any other APAC team had before them. Was 1 round away, was one versus one away from the eventual tournament champions in Yavle of getting there. The second run hits the wall. The second attempt is stopped by a smoke canister. Used both the E1Ds so far. They've still got, you know, the sort of push of any of the other utility, but look at what they've got left. Not a huge amount. The blind of the flashes might work from the shield itself as a sort of lead-in, but instead Alamal's going to go for the plant onto default. Rin's going to see if they can try and pick themselves back. The smoke canister is pushed away, but the body can't quite match the UC utility that's otherwise being balanced, barricaded back against it. They're trying to just eke their way towards this default plant spot, but they're losing every single gunfight. And even though FearX played a decent utility stop against the utility drive, they just could not win their ones.
Well, we talked about this in the preamble. The expectations for this match between us and between the community is that G2, the defending world champions, are going to have a pretty good game here. And what do? They go for a relatively conventional blue rush. FearX reads into this immediately and collapses farther into the site, reinforces off elbow. But then they don't really do much beyond that because you're effectively at this point trapped. I didn't really see a lot of emphasis on that first floor roam. They certainly didn't hold the top floor either. And when G2 is in and is attempting to get the diffuser down in the first 50 seconds of the round, I don't really know if you even have time to make any changes. At that point, FearX just need to take engagements and those gunfights head on. And I saw some bullets come out from FearX. They tried to fight on Pillar. They tried to fight that hallway. They lost every single duel, and G2 gets the round flawlessly. That is a statement round to have. And honestly, if you're coming in here as FearX and you're hoping that, you know, new org, new tag, new roster, new team, that's not exactly how you want things to begin.
It fills me with a little bit of fear.
X. I knew that was coming.
It only really works. It would be great if Ollie was here. Not just because of that gag, but also because I hate you.
Of course.
We look towards the control, towards the top of tower, and as I said, you know, the pressure of waking up as well on day 2 of a major. This is FearX's first game. G2, they had what was sort of described as a in-depth, argumentative engagement with NIP. It went the full distance, pretty much as far as it go over 2 maps. And NIP had big fight back rounds. They were sort of brushed aside at points. They often statistically have their worst day on the opening day of a major here. Later on, playing against Dark Zero. So otherwise, as we go for this drive-through, we'll see if G2 can build on the back of what was technically for them, as it was for anyone the first day, the warm-up game, the warm-up day. Swing around here. They've still got the stretch, but look at that.
What? Do you remember what I was saying about Rin before we got into the matchup?
I do remember what you were saying.
Why did it take you so long to say?
Because I'm posing, I'm posing for photographs. Someone is taking photographs as us, and I have to pose for it as we get the pose inside the site. There's Benji getting a second for the round as they're just held off a little bit by Mephi.
They're on the board.
On the board. They got their first kill over the 2 rounds, and it's the stop onto Doki. They've removed the Grim Bees and the Bees of Grim. Now suddenly Mephi's been able to get himself a second. Swung on and held on. They went for another sort of quick break there. They got the opening kill on the player that went for the run out on the door. That was Rin. And then since then, they've tried to move the way back. They have attic control. They have some pressure on towards the trophy side. I'm not entirely sure. Yep, half of the wall itself has been kept open. So they have the swing onto cupboard. But Mephi has the swing onto every single player in front of him. Doing all he can. Good boy at least stops. It entirely being the Mephi show, but now Uno in the 1 versus 3. The old experienced voice, the one who's been around the board and was brought back into the G2 roster after their success at the previous SI to sort of help with the late round calls. Can't help against that. FearX lose the first 2 and then pull it back.
You know what I didn't really see G2 do much of there is drone, effectively. They had 1 player stacked up at Big Window. They had 1 player on that Games Repel. They had 1 player wanting to vault into the top of Armory. And honestly, I think the big linchpin of G2 strategy there was take control of Armory and then push through Trophy and continue towards the site. The moment that that casualty happened and the moment that that kill came out from Mephi, it completely pushed G2 back from being able to effectively split push. Now look, Benja gets that pick on the bottom of main stairs. He wants to assert dominance by continuing up in that direction. Can't get it done. He dies. You've now effectively turned the entire focus of FearX towards top of white stairs, games window, big window. You've got Uno all by himself, playing inside of attic, but he has no intel. He's playing on Maverick. Like, you have no intel. You have no real utility. What are you going to do? G2 was heavily relying on essentially that pincer move, where from both directions, you cram FearX in the middle. I mean, G2's able to pull off a very linear take. They did it back in round number 1, but a linear take is much more challenging to do because the way that the site plays out on the top floor, you don't have the same level of soft and hard destruction you can do to open things up. So G2 ultimately stumble. Their guns fail them. They don't have any strategy beyond losing control of Armory. And now they're back at square one. They're going to attack basement again with a completely different style.
You're about to be able to make your rim point for the 3rd time as they're about to see if they can step into the open engagement. This time, maybe they won't get entirely caught out by the surprise of the player just holding off to the angle. They're droned out. They cannot quite find the slip away. And obviously, they are a very experienced player in the Korean scene. They've played against their opponents a lot. And, well, they haven't played with this roster a huge amount. I think the move was only sort of clarified about a month ago, if that. At this point, when you're sort of coming in as your lead into the SI tournament, well, actually, they're against an opponent that proves it can be done. Benja did the same sort of thing with even more fervor last year, became the star player of the previous SI, and that sort of back and forth is going to be a blow for blow. Look at this control. A different take here from G2. They've been able to just strong-arm their way through a full map clear within a minute and forcing all of those players back down towards the site from Shower from the back end. That is a lot of worry here in the motions of FearX, and it gives G2 so much time to work on the strategy. Alamau, after doing Freezer Stairs, has been able to just pick up and move towards Laundry.
I mean, you've got the Capitao at the bottom, waiting for the call to be made so that Alamau can rush on in. It's Uno who actually holds the case. It's not the shield, so I have to imagine that instead of your very typical default of get in, go for that Ninja Turtle-esque plant where you go and you expose your back and then the shield's on it, and it makes it very challenging for you to get killed. You're just going to see Alamau block off Uno. Now, very similar to what we saw in the previous round. They're going to need a split push here. I mean, Mephi has been fantastic so far. A 4th kill from this flex player on FearX. G2's finally on the board with Uno, who picks up 2. And there goes the plant, or kind of. That was very sloppy by G2.
I mean, yeah, they seem to just have these moments of a little bit of madness. I think they probably expected this to be this easiest game, and I'm not going to say that they didn't entirely prep for it. Obviously, everyone preps everything, but you've got a game against NIP, and then you've got a game against FearX. A lot of the attention is going to go towards the NIP showdown.
No way.
They get dropped. They're going to get the plant and the smoke onto the backside. The Monty doesn't need to truly finish off the player. It's the 3 versus 1 now as Uno is able to absolutely scream through the pistol, getting 1 and Virtue with the last.
So I will say, FearX was spread out a little bit more on that defense, and I do appreciate that. FearX was anticipating a blue take, which didn't materialize. I don't know if they knew that the shield was coming earlier on in the round or not. It would be interesting to know when FearX clued into the fact that, oh, okay, there is another shield operator on the board, but when you're playing against G2, you got to be ready for the unexpected, whether it's a blitz rush through blue, which really isn't that unexpected on Oregon, or you just have to worry about a shield coming down main stairs, which is exactly what ended up happening. Alimau comes down with the addition of the Capitao. We've seen this LMG get brought up by the Capitao a couple times across the last 2 days. And I mean, it's a stylistic choice. LMG's got nerfed, not exactly as strong as they used to be. The recoil is bad, but if your sole function at that point is suppressing fire, and it's going to be a bullet hose, which is exactly what most of these LMGs function as now, and they're not as precise as they used to be, then you send out the fire arrows, you essentially use area denial to keep the defenders back, and then you can unload 100 bullets while somebody gets the job done. Now, the curious question about this was that you'd think that suppressing fire would be done to prevent somebody from pushing you while you have the diffuser. It was Uno on that Capitao who had the diffuser, and once he got into the site, there was a bit of a check.
Yes, you were saying?
I believe I said that.
Did you have a point about Rin? I wasn't listening.
I believe there was a point I made about Rin early on where I said that Rin does stuff like what just happened a lot on Damwon Kia, where they would go and try to break out a window or go for a jump out, and I don't really see it happening all that often. But, I mean, G2 doesn't seem to drone out Arukaze and vaults through, and a relatively free kill. And now Uno's going to do the exact same thing. Arukaze isn't expecting it, but Uno still takes some severe damage in the meantime. And I think the idea behind not droning is that you want to vault in and catch them off guard. If you drone them out, you know that you're going to get pressure from the window. You're going to square to it. If you don't get droned out, you know somebody's there. Hop in, catch them by surprise. Arukaze is a good player. He's going to punish you for that, and he punished at least one player from G2.
Good boy and Damek still on the board. They've been able to get one apiece across the 2 rounds, but I mean, look at them just being bullied at this point. It's sort of brutal, right? Because the game is, as you said, it's not entirely boiling down towards the strategy push. It's not entirely boiling down towards the sort of, they're going for this take, they're going for this plant. FearX don't have a response to it. It's G2 have decided they wish to take this room. FearX don't have a response to it. And you sort of go, how do you stop that? They're going to try and work it out with this team talk.
Well, right now, FearX is averaging just a little bit over 2 kills a round, which, I mean, the obvious caveat to that is that round number 1 was a flawless round in favor of G2. That's going to skew the stats quite a lot.
Yeah.
But if you're winning a round, that means that presumably you got 5 kills. Averaging 8 kills over 3 rounds where you won 1 round is quite poor.
The thing about that flawless round as well that sort of sets the tone in the story of this is G2 weren't even like able to get their execute off. Think about how it played out, and it was a utility game that I complimented of getting the smoke canisters in towards the door, stopping the plant onto default. But then FearX just kept on swinging. They kept on getting themselves back into the fight. They swung down onto sort of long corridor towards Shaiko, towards Pillar, and lost about 2 players that way. They just seem a bit unable to get themselves into positions where not only are they able to have a little bit more in the gunfight, sure, but also the confidence that they can sit there. They're a little bit edgy, a little bit angsty, a little bit unsure of what's going to come back towards them. And well, now 3-1. Hey, is that Tim I hear on the other stream?
I think so.
Ace of Pyrite you will occasionally hear across both streams. It's Valentine's Day, and he's all-encompassing. Full of love.
Live,
Love
laugh,
is in
love.
the air.
Live, laugh, love. Or
I
prefer the more motto is live, laugh, die.
On my rider, you're so edgy. On my rider, I have the request a live, laugh, love sign in Hap's dressing room. Every hotel room he goes.
Hap has his own dressing room.
Hap has his own dressing room.
None of us have. We share a green room. Hap has his own.
Hap has his own dressing
Hap
room.
has his own dressing room.
The thing, and it's just an empty room with a live, laugh, love sign.
It's like a janitor's closet. It's a janitor's closet with a mop bucket and a live, laugh, love sign.
It's not even a big sign.
Big poster of like Max Verstappen next to it, and that's it.
Live, laugh, love. A hang in there like cat. Yeah, that's Hab's dressing room. It's actually, I lied about the rider thing. I just tell him this is his dressing room and it's a cupboard I've found with a live, laugh.
We're switching up some of the duos during the group stages, which is obviously why people might be wondering why the hell are Emmy and Parker casting together when they don't usually cast together. And that's because during the group stages, we think it's nice to be able to jostle partners. I'll actually be casting with Hap later. But I was going to say, I am not a color caster. You and I are both largely play-by-play casters.
What?
And I think it's probably beneficial, given what we've seen so far through these 4 rounds, that I am not a proper color caster, because we obviously have a group chat that we use for live events, and the other color casters in that group chat are losing their minds over what they're witnessing in this match. And I feel like they would be far more scathing in their critique of FearX. And if I may quote, I think it was Fresh. Fresh goes, FearX failed to win Oregon Basement with Azami, Tubero, Solus, and Fenrir all available. That is unheard of.
G2 let Fenrir through. They usually are pretty happy to get rid of Fenrir. They've played against him quite a lot. They play without him quite a lot. So I think it just shows the path of the course of the game here. It's a strange sort of selection. It's a strange energy, and it's, let's be honest, a mismatch. You have one of those teams that you expected, and what is the lowest rated team here at the event that hasn't been able to find any success internationally. Good boy. On the back of the timeout, does get the first and the second. There goes Uno. Getting the quick pick back up. They've lost some bolts in the E1Ds. He's doing his best to hold onto the laundry shield with Demic getting Doki. Rin gets Alamau, and oh my word! If Benja goes down, we have the reverse flawless! Get that man a medal for that timeout. Get Dark on the line. Who actually we should probably talk about. Dark.
Mm-hmm.
He is
Coach?
the coach. The first time they've had a non-Korean sort of in the team, behind the scenes, was in the Brazilian region up until about, I think it was 2 months ago he joined this team. They've had 6 weeks to try and change it. I think Derry Desert Shoe Hope.
Is that oh, okay.
He's the short guy. There's a little bit Tom Cruise energy. Your face, you ran through like 7 things you wanted to say then. You were like, no.
I don't think there's a single thing I could say about that doesn't get in trouble on broadcast.
That's why.
Not necessarily about Derry, more so about Tom Cruise, but besides the point.
Well, he puts on this show. This is actually the set of the next Mission Impossible.
Me talking about that comparison between the two of them is just, it's an impossible mission.
This is an impossible mission.
Well, FearX just won a flawless round against you.
They're Tom Cruising, baby.
Oh, yeah.
They're Tom Cruising.
Which one of them is Oprah's couch?
Alamo. Because they're going to jump all over him.
We presently have a Blackbeard on the board.
We do.
This is a choice.
Whoa!
That is also a choice.
Whoa! Yeehaw!
The best part is he didn't even properly reload. There's only a single bullet in it. You're gonna give it away. I am. And there goes the shield. Ninja Master. Oh no, he still got the shield. There he goes. Now properly loaded as well. I gotta say, just from an outside perspective, the structure of these rounds for FearX leads me to believe that G2, if they played maybe a bit more efficiently, that things could go better. I don't know exactly why you think that the Blackbeard is a wise idea here, but look at the lineup for G2. Grim, Flores, Maverick, Lion, and a Blackbeard. Now, it is a top floor defense for FearX, so I can understand why on this particular site you might have a compulsion to bring a Blackbeard. You're going to hang off those windows, and I think it was Benja Master who got the first pick on main stairs and then immediately went to the games window. That's the exact same position he's doing this time as well. Now, the focus for G2 is that once you take control of big window, you have to ensure there's no rotates going on from the players playing over towards attic, towards games, and most importantly, do not concede control of armory, how quickly they did. Dogi will run headfirst into the mute, playing inside a closet. And he'll manage to get away. Doki's a little bit too slow. You had both the Bs and the E1D to work on that. Neffy has been quite phenomenal. Rin dies first for FearX yet again, and that's the master bedroom side control for G2.
Ooh, Ben just suffering scrapes, and he's not entirely sure where from. It's the player just tucked into security. We're getting Virtue. They're spraying back and forth, though, and suddenly the balance has gone into G2's favor, with Benja getting all the way inside and forced a little bit further out. Good Boy's trying to find a second of salvation and space, but it's Mephi on the back. 2 players stacked up on the stair set, though. White stairs is only really the hold, and Good Boy's realized it, and who's really good in this situation? A man who can jump up and create rotations elsewhere towards attic hatch, maybe all the way towards the stairs, as he's gone the long distance. Suzuno goes to try and get the plant down. It is a 2 versus 2 here, and they want to make sure they're in a place to get the fight. There it is, the pick back up. If he's been a surprise here, he's somehow able to win it out! Drops against Doki, goes for the swing here. Azuno's left in the 1 versus 2. Not a huge amount of health. They have to time it well. There's the first. There's not the second! And they take a moment here. The triple kill for Mephi gets them their 3rd round. Parker, it's an even half!
Southern.
Defenders win.
It's an even half there.
It's an even half!
So, I don't want to say this to obviously put down Fearless Foxes, but this is less about Fearless Foxes winning the rounds and more about G2 not respecting this team.
100%.
Right? G2 are playing fast, they're playing fun, they're not exactly being as strategic as they could be, and I don't think they're respecting the gunplay of FearX. the one thing that this team has always had, whether it be Sandbox, whether it be C9, whether it be Mantis FPS, is the players on this team have always been able to shoot back. And there was one event a couple years ago that people might recall where I believe they were playing under Mantis FPS. It was right after I think they even dropped from C9, or maybe it was right before they got picked up by C9. I can't remember the exact history behind it, but that doesn't really matter. Is that this team, the core of this FearX team, was excellent at getting first blood. And they were drawing first blood in something like 70 to 80% of their rounds, but they were ultimately losing about 80% of the rounds that they got first blood in. And people were asking the question, well, why is that? And it's because they're great at aiming, and on attack, they can get in quickly and isolate you and take a gunfight. But strategically, this team has always kind of lagged behind international competition. And there isn't much through those 6 rounds that I really loved about FearX's defenses, frankly. And I mean, I don't obviously want to take Fresh's words and use them again, but when you've got literally an embarrassment of riches on defense, it's a Kaid and Wamai ban, for crying out loud. You've got all of the quote-unquote most annoying defender operators still available. The fact that you're losing rounds with those operators on the board is quite pitiful, frankly. But G2 are just not doing what they need to do. They're not droning as thoroughly. They're taking isolated gunfights themselves and not respecting the gunplay of FearX. And I mean, G2 do this against their opponents. They get cocky, they try to take gunfights, they try to win without actually doing any due diligence, and it bites them. And G2 starts to wake up. I guess obviously now the first half is done, so it's a moot point in that regard. But now that G2's on defense, you have to respect the abilities that these players have, because they will punish you if you try to take them one-on-one.
Virtue gets the first take there onto Rin, gets the second onto Good Boy. Mephi's able to get Doki, who's been shut out of a lot of rounds so far. They lose Good Boy, who's been a bit of a tour de force. Rin, unfortunately, forced the tour. No, that's not the opposite. That's not how words work. They haven't been able. Tour de France. In that bikes. They haven't been able to get any kills, apart from the single so far on the single half. This is where I wanted to see Rin perform. And let's be honest, this is where FearX struggle. Their attack. They will spend a long time setting up, and for a long time they didn't have somebody to take that initiative, to try and push the pressure. There was an interview that Des did, where he talked to the coach, talked to people behind the team, talked to Envy Taylor, and sort of found out why things were going wrong, what was the change. And the problem was FearX wanted everything to be perfect before they went for the execute. They have to get into that modern style of Siege where you see opportunities, you take them, baby.
Yeah. No, and I mean, Rin is obviously going to be the big focus for us because Rin was a flashy player on Damwon Kia. There was that period of time at SI 2 years ago where a lot of players had that Damwon Kia roster pegged as being a top 4 squad, and then, you know, what did I say? I talked on the broadcast once where I said I want Liquid in a Damwon Kia final because of, I think, their potential. But Rin is just not living up to the billing so far on defense, throwing lives away quite needlessly, relatively feckless on this one single round of entry. Now, the good news is there are contingency plans for FearX. Mephi is still on the board, despite the fact that this Fearless Fox's roster is trailing with 20 seconds left. I like the fact that they've still got their star player up. The question is that the site is going to get harder to attack. Does FearX have what it takes to overcome that?
I think it's also the swing that, you know, let's be honest here, Mephi heads out there. He is not always the star player. He's having to do a lot of the heavy lifting here in the 2 versus 1 now as they lose the body down onto Long. There was just a backline here. It's turning into the situation where, although G2 have been playing a little bit loose, a little bit wild, they are going to be helped by the fact it's on defense now. They have the ability to sort of go, yeah, we've got a setup. We're running our setup. Okay, now we can move around. There's a lot less sort of pressure on time, on moving forward. And it's FearX's weaker half across the 2 at this point. They are as feckless as you are.
I think that's Valentine's Day. I think that's hurtful.
No facts.
Nice guy.
I feel like we're playing a very dangerous game here. As you can probably tell, I'm quite hoarse. So I don't want to say a word that sounds like another word in case my voice...
I'm forcing you into it. I was you yesterday.
When my voice starts to go like this, obviously it's... I don't know if you've been having this issue, but it feels like everybody's been sleeping with the air conditioning on and like everybody's losing their voice at the moment.
I did once, and now I'm like, I've just got to sweat it out, baby.
Last night we were talking after the show, and I feel like...
we weren't.
Not you and I.
Oh, okay.
We is also a collective.
That what you call the imaginary friends you have? If you ever go into Parker's room at an event, he's actually got 7 cutouts of different celebrities that he calls his entourage.
One of which is Tom Cruise, by the way.
Tom Cruise, Danny.
I put him in Dez's shirts from the night before.
And he steals Dez's
Dez changes in the green room, and I just take his shirt.
Take his shirt, runs
I need
away.
his musk. I need his musk for the cutout. It has to be genuine.
Danny DeVito, and you put Tim's clothes on Danny DeVito's cutout.
I think Danny DeVito is roughly the same height as Carter, actually.
Oh, well, maybe it's Carter you dress as Danny DeVito.
The point I was making is that yesterday it was like basically everybody was going around the table being like, yeah, my throat really hurts and feels super tight. And then I woke up this morning and it's like, so I don't, yeah, there's certain words that I don't want to say in case I have like a vocal hiccup and say something that could, you know, potentially get me shot into the sun.
Yeah.
So I'd like to not do that.
No, that's fair enough. There's blinds and flashes all across the site as Benja's able to get themselves in. I'm not entirely sure what's happened with Dem. He's entered another dimension. But the dimension has been one that he's been very quickly removed from. They lose the glass as well. The fact that there's just in his army Kiva barricade able to hold off on the opposite end. Matthew wasn't able to make the approach. Suddenly they've been able to get 2 kills off the back of it. Rin gets one up the top of White Stairs. They're also able to remove Virtue as well. So they've lost the mute, they've lost the smoke, they've lost the mute in the Valkyrie, even. There's still a couple of worrisome positions to play into, and you are looking at the fact that they went with, what's that, a lot of Candelas, a man with a blinding shield, some smokes. Oh, Benja, he's playing Warden. That's sort of that position where you have to have so much confidence you can outgun whoever's on that Warden. Not many people can outgun Benja.
No, and I mean, you've also just brought flat out the tools for it. Now, I have to imagine G2's focus will be trained on White Stairs. Uno is probably best positioned to deal with that, as Arukazi is down below and will now probably go to Big Window, would be my guess, but I'm not entirely certain. There we go, yeah. So Arukazi will come up to Big Window and will likely go for a Candela flash, then try to rush on in. He'll probably either push directly towards White Stairs if they fear Rin's advance, or Arukazi will hope that maybe if somebody's not watching White Stairs, vault in and just go for that Kids Dorms portion of the map. Question mark for me is Mephi right now on Repel, looking at the games, waiting to catch the rotate from G2, and Mephi's in a position where you don't actively need to be a part of this push. They don't have the diffuser on the side of FearX, so this is just simply going to be a slugfest. And the blows will frankly come. Arukazi dies, Rin on top of White Stairs, outduels Uno, whose attention is elsewhere. Now Doki is creeping on up. Diffuser is in the site. It was dropped by the Blitz earlier on. And Doki will take out Rin with the impact and then get information on the vault in. Almost miss it. That could have been quite poor. But G2 looking quite cocksure, if I can say that, on defense.
I don't know, is it worrisome close to words that you can't say because of your clicky voice? You're like a frog, an animated frog.
I don't think I have a froggy voice right now.
Give me a ribbit.
Can I say something?
I don't know.
May I say something for the people watching?
Yeah.
Here's what I'm just going to say. I'm just going to say it. Tom Sherlock. That's it. Let me move on. He's co-streaming. I just want to say his name. So
You just want to say his name?
Yeah, I've never said it on a broadcast.
You want to say his name?
I did.
I thought at first you were saying he should ribbit.
No, I just wanted to say his name. I know he's co-streaming. That's all.
Okay.
I
What else do you
I
want to
saw
do?
when we did the
You want to
going
hold his
live.
hand? Want to stroke his head?
No, I don't want to do those things.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Happy Valentine's
Oh,
Day.
here's your Valentine's Day, Tom. You got a shout out on
Before
that.
insertion.
That's all.
Welcome to SI.
We couldn't afford to give him a shout out on the A stream, Tom. You have to get a shout out on the
Yeah,
B
yeah,
stream
like,
with a fraction of the audience.
look, I'm really sorry, Tom. There's like a list of names that we can say on the A stream and the B stream.
Yeah,
You're a B
unfortunately,
stream boy.
When we're on A stream, it's like we can say Jinxie, we can say Macy J.
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
we can't say Tom Sherlock. It has to be. That's a B stream.
B stream has to be Tom
B stream
Sherlock,
Tom.
King George.
Certainly not. Have you seen his viewership recently?
No! See,
King George is a B stream boy now. Okay.
5-2. No, 5-3. 5-3. G2 versus FearX. I can count. I can read. They can play. Virtue is now playing the operator juggling, and they have some protection against blinds, but what they aren't going to suffer is actually that they've got the ram here. for the take across the top. They're inside stage. They want to do some quick pace. We've seen this play many, many times. What it needs to be done with is noise. So there's the 1, there's the 2, there's the shebang, there's you. Rin, gone again. They've been able to get a couple of kills since the previous time, and they are actually going for these quicker takes. I enjoy what I'm seeing from FearX. However, they are up against world champions. They're up against a team that is more than happy to. I mean, that was a well-placed, long-placed C4, and they just waited.
I mean, obviously, a lot of this criticism about this FearX team is going to be pointed very squarely at Rin, and honestly, for good reason. These are the exact same pitfalls that Rin seemed to find time and time again playing on Damwon Kia, and is now essentially being deployed the same way by FearX as Rin was back on the other Korean team that we tend to see. Oh no.
Oh no, oh no. Oh no.
Well, I mean, that's certainly a way to get in. I would be fuming mad if I was good boy there, because you go in classroom after Gone Sixing it, and Benja is literally a sneaky snick right under the window.
Yeah.
It's all endemic. GT is about to move to match point. I mean, I wanted to give some praise to this FearX squad for how they entered back previous iterations, and certainly isn't coming to pass here. I mean, attacking on Oregon is not a very fun proposition, whether it's your map or not. The fact that G2 was able to take 3 of the 6 rounds statistically on Oregon is actually quite good. But G2 is just absolutely bulldozing through this FearX squad, and I mean, this is quick. We started 34 minutes ago, and we're already just about done with map number 1. Are you trying to think of something nice to say? I can't really tell with your face.
No, I'm stopping myself saying something mean about you.
That's never stopped me before. Say it.
You used to be.
What did you say? What did you say?
I said you're used to being fast. 6-3. G2 sit themselves on series.
I'm worried about things to say on broadcast.
They are not stressed. They are having a very easy time with this. And that's the sort of worry here, because, you know, you are in what is a tough game. You're at SI. Every game is going to be a tough game for pretty much anyone that's on the boards here. Regardless of whether you're up against G2, B7M, FaZe, the sort of top teams that you expect to make to the live stages, or you're up against, you know, FearX, you're up against SSG, you're up against Lost, these teams that have had good performances at points, but haven't quite had that consistency throughout the year. Everyone has the possibility, because they've been able to get Kia, which comes off the back of the year. Kia, though, FearX.
For people wondering, by the way, it says Fox in the top.
It's because he's working on the analyst.
No.
What?
First, it's on a desk right now. It's the analyst podiums. Killers.
First, second, and third.
Oh.
Turkey gets Rin. Rin gets removed.
I would love to see at the end of this match Rin's entry stats. And then also on defense, I'd like to know Rin's roaming stats, because realistically,
I mean, it's an execution. They're just messing them up real bad. That's my
I gotta say, I mean, like, I'm quite impressed with G2. They're still
it's
kind of
terrifying.
I mean, they're still kind of playing like blockheads.
Silly.
Blockheads, but I mean, like, they realize now they have the numbers advantage, and just like that, match is over.
I mean,
the map is over.
I think that's the thing, is we can tell when G2 are sort of sat up in the chair, putting the big competition on, they're wearing their fancy fighting shoes. This isn't that. This is a baseline for them of, yeah, we'll play throughout this game. We know this map well enough to play a base game. This is fundamentals of a team, really. And these are scarily good fundamentals, because you're having sort of untethered, sort of obstructed movement around a map itself. They are more than happy to destroy anything ahead of them, and FearX just couldn't get a foot in. Even the sort of opportunities that came on that second half, attack is still something that is just out of their reach. And we will be throwing a quick break.
For Souls, man, as well. Like, I feel bad because he's played the Blackbeard this whole half, but he's clearly not winning his gunfights. And even when he has got the Blackbeard, he's getting a single kill, shooting someone as they're running in front of him and not actually firing back. Then he gets into a spot where he's got a clear line of sight to the diffuser and still can't find himself a kill. It's one of those maps I'm sure that he'll be very quick to forget as the longer this tournament wears on. But still potentially a very long series ahead of us. And you could even turn around and see the unexpected, that SSG take this 2-0, and many were looking at this series and saying, you know what? You can see a phase 2-0 coming out of this.
Yeah, I think, it's fair to say after SSG struggling to get past Wolves yesterday, you looked at it and thought, FaZe are one of the favourite teams for the tournament, we have to say it. That's the reality of,
team wasn't.
that's the reality that they're up against. But SSG have come out with a fantastic opening performance on board here. They've really put FaZe to the sword. They've taken the opportunities when they've been there, and this could be a really solid 7-3 win, and you start looking at it and thinking, right, okay, game on.
I say it quite a lot as well, but coming into a game day, a team can be 50% better or 50% worse than what you're normally used to seeing for them. And I think in this game, you're seeing SSG, playing considerably better than they did yesterday, and FaZe playing arguably considerably worse than we saw from them yesterday. SG were remarks on it on the attacks. Nothing really went right for them or Wolves on the attacking halves of the match yesterday. But I think that first half has been such a turnaround for SSG that put them so far in the lead already. 4-2 half was absolutely brilliant, that they just look extremely commanding. And again, a very different team to what we saw yesterday. The team play is on point.
Something that I will say, that I always do say, and I think is important at this stage of the tournament, whoever ultimately goes on to win SI24 will have a bad day. Guaranteed. What it's about, every team will. What it's about is placement of that bad day. You can't choose it, but you need it to come at the right time. Look at W7M in Atlanta. They lost one of the group stage games, and we were sat looking, going, are W7M going to go on and win this thing? They've lost the game, maybe they should have won. And so it's not always the end of the world, to come into a game. Don't get me wrong, this wasn't a dead cert, and FaZe haven't lost anything yet, but coming in here and, not picking up the win on the second day, if that's going to be your bad day, it's not the end of the world. Cyber manages to get a second, taking down Ashen, but look at that double from hot and cold to bring us back to 3 versus 2. They do have a Monty to deal with, but consider it dealt with.
Vitter King, hello? What's going on? Still come down to a 2v1 for FaZe. A strange round. Like, the fact that Asher could even crouch walk out into the main hallway was a bit like, eh? Like, you guys surely know he's there, and there's 3 of you on this side of the map. You've got a Monty to stare him down. They turn for Ashen, and then suddenly Hot and Cold pops out and gets 2 for himself as well. Again, beautiful team play from SSG, off the back of each other, playing for those trades, and they make it a 1 for 2. Either way, it's boiled down to a 2v1 for FaZe, and they will get the closeout. And they keep themselves in the game at least a little bit longer. 6-4 now to SSG.
FaZe certainly doing a job on that one, but it was close run. SSG making a great attempt. So we're going to move into round 11, and I think in some ways I would have to say this scoreline is pretty kind to FaZe at the minute. I think SSG could probably have this wrapped up by now, to be honest. But they are sort of giving FaZe that opportunity to get back into it, and that's something that SSG need to be aware of. Get it done now. Don't let them get back to 6-5. Don't let them take you to overtime, because with the way that SSG have performed overall throughout Border, if this were to go to overtime, for example, I think that's going to take a bit of a mental blow to SSG, because they're going to come away knowing that it shouldn't have been that close.
Home as we march. Again, Cafe awaits and really eager to see how that map is going to play out. Very fair to expect SSG to start on the defense there, facing the attacking side. Given how this map has gone, it's anyone's guess exactly how it's going to go, but it's going to be far more even than maybe we first assumed. No Castle coming in this time, but we are going to see the Capcan. I think Fresh has already got that on his bingo card.
Yes, there has already been a Capcan kill, Capcan trap kill, an EDD kill. Always a good position if you've not used those before. Give them a whirl. If you're on Border and you're playing Capcan, you can put traps on the archways that are in the 90 corridor. And because they are doorways, but they kind of don't feel like doorways. They just feel like they're part of a corridor. They can be barricaded and stuff. So
yeah, we've seen barricades constantly.
Yeah, this is it. So it's often they've sort of forgotten doorways, really. So they're very often not cleared in terms of Capcan traps. So whack them on there, you'll get some success, I guarantee.
We spoke about Border yesterday being one of those more gunfight heavy maps, because you can essentially see from corner to corner, side to side, top to bottom of this map the whole way through because there are so many soft walls and long angles like that hallway. East stairs, you can see all the way through to the west main doorway and window, not the one that goes in towards Armory Archives, obviously, but the one that pushes in towards security, the doorway and the window there. So the fact that this map is so open, having those small changes made did help improve it somewhat, but now you just see teams making sure they've got the capability to destroy any castles that get brought along. Rip! There we go.
There we go. Veto King is going to be feeding information about Ashen, no doubt. I think that's why the Monte is positioned as such at the window. They're just waiting for that support to come in. They need to get Ashen pinched here, get him dealt with. They can't allow him to continue sitting in this position because he's at the minute holding up the entire top floor push. He's got FNATs in position to help him. They can't move in through break room door, but Ashen doesn't want to overpeak this. He's got the utility to help him stay in position. Handy will take down Forest. Fultz manages to take down Cyber with a Nitro, though, to level things up.
Waiting on. Oh, but he's been taken out first. Soul's awakened. I said he had a few rough rounds, but he must have heard because he's up to 5 kills now. The whole team starting to come online with KDS dragging them along by the scruffs of the necks. 2 left for SSG. Surely team after this round, there's a tap timeout coming in for them because they've still got it available and they want to get this done in regulation.
Yeah, absolutely that. It's really starting to look close now as FaZe managed to get themselves back. They're going all the way to 12 and it's not a good round for SSG there really. FaZe able to just pick them apart. Ashen did prevent that push into CCTV very well, to be fair, but it just wasn't enough because the defense crumbled around him really and FaZe were able to find the kills elsewhere.
Sure enough, SSG tac timeout is in case you couldn't tell from the reams of strat books being rolled out and discussed between the team here as well. In case you are new to watching SI, we do have each team with the ability to have a tac timeout for 45 seconds, once per map each. We saw that get taken earlier on in the map by the other side from FaZe, and SSG here have taken theirs right at the crux of it, because if they lose this one, Tim, guess where we're going?
We all know it does.
You don't want to say the word until the moment's come. It's almost like a game now that you avoid saying it.
It just, I need it to, I don't want to overuse it. You know, I need it to keep its impact. It's interesting. We'll have to keep tracking it. Actually, this is the time to remember. Quite often, I think almost all events, for some reason, we end up as the pair with the
highest average round.
Yeah, with the highest average round count. And certainly yesterday, SSG and Wolves delivered that. We had an overtime there.
We had all 12 rounds, we had overtime, then we had 7-2 to close in the third map, yeah.
So we had an awful lot of that one, and this is just starting to shape up as one of those that feels like it could be, you know, exactly the same, that we're going to see plenty of it. I said it at the beginning when it was 1-1. You know, this is what we wanted from these two teams. I had a feeling that it was going to be a really tight, close game. So far, not only has it been a close game, it's been really entertaining. Both teams are really, you know, having their moments, and we've seen some great play. So for me, keep on going. Let's see every round of this that we can.
I mean, if FaZe have turned it back on now and can drag this through to overtime, and God knows what happens when we get to those final 3 rounds, it could turn into one hell of a series. The only thing I'm slightly nervous about is if FaZe do get back to the standard that we know FaZe are more than capable of playing at. Yeah, the last few rounds have been difficult for SSG to remain too competitive, and I just fear that at that point FaZe will just run away with the game, similar to the game against Wolves yesterday. And the main note that I took down from that series yesterday is that it feels like SSG are very... It's almost like they're lost at sea, and the currents around the tide is the other team. They don't really have too much control over a game, really. It's down to the other team. If the other team isn't playing super well, SSG capitalise on that. If the other team is playing well, SSG just can't quite meet that bar, which sounds really weird to say about a former quarterfinalist team, but as a reminder, they only just about squeaked into that spot from Swift and then got knocked out pretty quickly by FaZe. So I just want to see a bit more sharpness from SSG overall, and it's the first time I've really had any criticism to levy against them in this game, but I said the same yesterday. We need to see some sharp, pointy sticks coming out of this team, some hero players that can work a bit of magic when the chips are on the table.
That's a big snag there for the Bravo drone, managing to get that FNAT captured that is going to allow them into break. If Ashen isn't aware of that, it could be dangerous because he will think he's not likely to be pushed. I think he will now know, shoots out the FNAT, so knows that it might be time to consider dropping away.
And one thing to note, we spoke about this a bit on B-Stream yesterday, in case you are coming back to Siege after a while, Ash can now destroy mirror windows at range. Drilling gadgets, so Carly and Ash can shatter them at distance. So it tends to be now when you see a mirror on side, you might see a Twitch, you might see an Ash, you might even see both. Either way, can destroy it at range quite securely, as you saw just a second ago, onto that 90 mirror.
FearX have done a really good job there of clearing out CCTV. It's allowing them also now to play on the sort of waiting room balcony. They're getting themselves established on that east side of the map, and they can start to push their way across. Vitaking's just looking in through the breach, feeding information, whilst SSG, they draw away. They've got a couple underneath, and they're trying to hold on at the minute. 1 minute 10, though, is going to be a long time.
I wouldn't say they're so much scared, but SSG's comp in this round is so defensive as well. I was going to speak about it around start, but forgot. Outside of Forest, everyone wants to be on or around site, and you can see it. Well, we can see it on our top down at least. Outside of Forest, everyone is sat on site, very tightly grouped together, able to play for trades, and this is letting FaZe sort of manipulate the defense and get ready to execute where they want to hit. And here, that looks to be West Main with Vidaking. He's the one with Diffuser in back pocket, but his cover in Souls has gone. Jane, has just deleted him with the Vector.
Really important kill from J9O there. Might just have won the map, to be honest. Manages to get a second onto the Monty as well, and the slippery slope gets even slippier as Handy now finds himself last alive. 1v4 takes a little bit of damage off J9O, but there is not likely to be a positive outcome for him here. 20 seconds, he's searching, he's seeking, he wants those kills, but he's unlikely to find them because SSG, they are not going to overcommit here. You can see them just sitting back. They know they've got all the crossfires that they need. They take the challenge. Handy finds Forest, but 7 seconds left and 3 kills needed. It's not going to happen. Hot and Cold is the one to step up and find his man. SSG close it out, maybe slightly closer than they would have liked, but 7-5, that's a win on border.
100% closer than they would have liked, I think, Tim. 7-5, given how that first half went, not forgetting it was a 4-2, and it really coming down to attack timeout just before that last round to say, right, boys, enough running around the map, we're going to hunker down. Only Forest offside because his gadgets have been dropped down the ADS, he can afford to get out. Everyone else was playing in twos on either side of that top floor, and I feel for FaZe, they didn't really have enough decisiveness about them. Souls was kind of like, okay, he's on half wall, what's going on? And that left Vidaking entirely by himself. And Forest did get that little couple of kills coming up main stairs as well. Overall, I think FaZe will be gutted because they did a really good job in that second half to almost pull it back.
Yeah,
but
they did.
Can't ignore the numbers. SSG at 1-0.
No, ultimately, I think, like I said, maybe a little bit closer than SSG might have liked, but I think mentally they take a good victory away from that into map 2. I think a lot of people will have expected FaZe to come in here and maybe even roll over SSG a little bit, but SSG have stood tall, they've turned up, and it's been a great performance so far. I'm looking forward to more of this.
Well, let's go to a break. When we come back, the desk will break it down for you ahead of Cafe. See you in a few.
welcome back to the series. Well, we're right in. I thought we were going back to camera.
No preamble, no camera,
No
just
preamble,
straight to the
no
action.
camera?
Look at. We're in it.
Do you know how long I was in hair and makeup today?
I don't care.
Do you know?
You know how long I wasn't?
Do you know how long I spent choosing an outfit to look cute for Valentine's Day?
Cast the next match.
Do you know how many people?
Casting with Nick next?
I am casting with Penguin.
Or poor boy. There's good boy and
You're
then there's poor
casting
boy.
with Hat later.
Don't remind me.
He's in his live, laugh, love cupboard currently.
Looking at a picture of Max Verstappen.
Look at his match. And he just sits there and he just nods.
He's on games 3 and 4 today. What's the over-under on him actually being awake?
He's just, he nods and goes, Dutch people can be good.
Look at that.
Thanks for tapping.
Look at that result.
I think there should at some point be us on camera again.
Yeah, at the end of the match.
Yeah, in the middle.
You think they should just cut through the matchup and just come back to us?
I think we should float around the stream, you know, like on DVD menus.
We just ping pong. There's just like a cube of us.
Yeah.
Bouncing around the screen. Just bouncing around the screen.
Because then viewers at
The
home.
game ends when we hit the corner. That's over. Whoever's
How
in
many
the lead
people-
is the one who wins.
How many people love to watch that, right?
If you love to watch that, put a 1 in the chat, please.
If you love to watch the DVD logo.
And then if you
Bounce.
if you don't want to watch it, also put a 1 in chat. I'm just trying to see something.
I think the kids at home are calling for it, screaming. We should probably get them away from the computers.
10 seconds to go.
FearX, we're onto that map now. A quick jaunt into the cold winds of
5 seconds
Chalet, and we play on the basement with G2 leading on defense. Defense,
Attackers are moving out
defense.
to locate a
Can
bomb
you
and
defend
defuse it.
the performance that we had from FearX's attack on the previous map? Not so well, really. They just struggled to get into the sort of game itself, and well, you're seeing a lot of ones in chat. And a lot of ones as well, so it's both sides of it.
You know what I think about my favorite part about this is just like right now I can only imagine the amount of G2 fans who are just so aggravated hearing this commentary. Not that I want to openly antagonize a fan base, but if there's any fan base I'm pissing off G2 fans is probably the most important. Outside of DZ fans, I like pissing off. But that's just because then I have to hear about it from Troy.
Yeah, well, you know, he's Canadian. You guys have that,
Literally.
that like talk of brain conversation. Talk of brain conversation thing. I have apparently no brain talk of conversation thing, but what I can talk about is the Blitz.
So I want to say one thing about these operator bids. Obviously, we're 1 minute into the second map. G2 slaughtered Fearless Foxes in map number 1. This obviously is Fearless Foxes map. However, it banned the Fenrir, and Fenrir was the biggest thorn in the side I felt of G2 in the previous map. Fenrir was hugely important at skewering various vision from G2 and then being able to punish them with that nearsightedness.
Oh. Oh no.
That was an odd fight
The
for
first
Fearless
was,
Foxes to take.
I mean, caught on the rotate over the sort of barricades of the stairs, going for the hop there, then getting the second as well, just by third peek onto the window was when he netted the third kill there. And it's just a sort of terrible situation. Almost another body confirmed on a window swinging, and it is.
You either playing, did you ever play old FPS games where you play Iron Man?
Yeah.
Where you just send one person out and see how many...
Oh no, it's a quad for Doki. Will it be an ace? He's going for the final player, and he's got the gun to do it. Alamau steals it from
Doki.
But the fact that, okay, let's have a look at that as an attack. The site was the basement itself. They were trying to find their way through onto it via the west main take. They had 2 players lose on one window, the main window just upstairs, main. And then they had the players jump in on the back window. The 4th player to get into an engagement, the 4th operator, was Blitz. When you're getting in and throwing yourself into that close sort of situation, the shield player is the one that sort of goes into this very, let's say, direct attempted take. They didn't have any control anywhere else. They hadn't dabbled anywhere else. So you do wonder why the blitz was there in that position when they should have really been, if it is a direct charge, tip of the spear.
Bomb located by attackers.
By the way, you asked me why I wanted to say his name, and I'm going to read. I just got a
10
notification
seconds
for this
remaining.
1 minute ago. Popped up on my screen.
Yeah.
I'm not
5 seconds
actively
to
checking Twitter in between matches, by the way, but I keep all my notes on an iPad and I get notifications that pop up. So I just
You get the bleeps, the
saw this,
bleeps.
yeah. Oh, I just opened it right now. This is from @Tom J Sherlock on Twitter, and I refuse to call it that because that's a stupid branding decision. Tom B. Sherlock is officially rebranding. It's still unreal hearing yourself being spoken about on an official broadcast. Ribbit. Pets permitted. Big love to both you and Captain. Both crushing it as always. 5 exclamation marks.
Aww.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Love you, Tom.
One day you'll be on the A stream.
One day you will be on the A stream, Tom.
Well, he's been on the A stream actually during Copenhagen a lot when he was in the
He
crowd.
has. He's also played in the show match.
He did?
Did well, I think.
I don't know.
You were too busy feeding
You cast it. I fed.
boys bananas.
Yeah, I fed. We were eating bananas on the stairs. Me.
And then you fed a boy a banana.
No, that was Atlanta.
Ah.
It's different. I know that you might think that they're the same, but they were in fact not. However, let's take a look at what G2 is doing right now. They're defending upstairs, and Fearless Fox are in the building. FearX are in the building and droning out that basement floor. Because here's the big thing about G2. They've got a Vigil, an operator that has really not seen a lot of pick rate so far at this event. Obviously, we're only a day in. But if you're Doki, after that banger of a round where he got a 4K, waste as much time as humanly possible, and if there's not enough anti-flank brought by FearX, you can then go up the stairs and punish them.
G2, they've been able to get the lead in, and you know, at this point, we've got all 5 players of FearX still alive, which is maybe the longest we've had of that in this entire showdown and scenario so far. I spoke too soon. As C4 is able to remove Demic as they try and put pressure onto the windows now. Benja is more than happy to just drift around the side, but caught from underneath. Good boy. Gets the take, misses the camera, but player is more important in that engagement. Just under. A minute left at this point. They're still trying to get a hand onto the site itself, and you're looking at a sort of hard breach here. It's a direct drive from what is otherwise in place. Good boy gets another. That fight continues underneath. The Buck is trying to force the players out of the sort of sitting corners that they're otherwise tucked in towards the bathroom. The blinds come across the board. 30 seconds. They're forced all the way back into piano with only Uno inside the site itself. They're just shepherding space. This is when you go, FearX, what have you learned? Can you get the kit down? No. You only need enough to be able to cement yourself that plant. You don't need to try and get the complete clarity, which has otherwise struggled. But she's on the retake, drives his way through the bathroom, and he's looking for the next swing onto the hard walls. They know how deep he has gone. Good boy. He's right inside the core of the site, going with a skeleton key, but it's just a ring around the rosies. He's too far away! And the retake of G2 retakes what was the most promising attack from the whole game.
So I don't want to obviously just point my finger at one player in particular as to who cost that entire round, but I have no choice. Arukaze was playing Capitao on the bedroom big window. He had the line of sight into bedroom, but also the rotate that was created into office, and most importantly, the door and angle all the way into piano. Now, he was switching out his Capitao fire arrows. So he dives down from the window at the same time that both Virtue and Alimao push up to that bathroom door, cycle through. They can look at bedroom, they can look at closet, they can look at solarium, and by the time Arukaze is able to get back up to that big window, it's too late. Alimao's been able to get away, and Alimao got 3 kills. 3 kills because he was not cut off from Arukaze. Capitao had held that position and got the cross and kills out. Now that round almost certainly goes in favor of none other than FearX. But all it takes is you rappelling down for a nanosecond to either reload or do something and take your eyes off of the line where your opponents can cross over, and all hope is lost. And that's effectively what happened. Arukaze took his eye off the ball. He played safe. He played smart, all things considered. But if you'd held that position, knowing that your teammates were going to be coming from that solarium side, and you could have possibly killed Alimao, Put more pressure on Uno, who's effectively trapped in office at that point. Uno would have had to fight his way out of it. He didn't really have much going for him. He was a mirror sitting on a mirror window, but other than that, it's just the Vector that you're going to be engaging long range with the Vector. You're going to run bullets really fast. At that point, Arakazi could potentially repel in, and all it leaves is Virtue playing inside a bathroom. That was all it came down to. Allowing Alimao to play in that position at the very end there was huge. I will, though, give credit to FearX for the fact that they were able to get a lot of anti-flank down. They isolated Doki early on. They eliminated the threat that the Vigil posed, which is huge. Because on a map like Chalet, it is so common to stick somebody either upstairs if you're defending the first floor or downstairs, or in the basement if you're defending the first floor or the top floor. Somebody like Doki, who is just excellent on those lurk rolls, excellent in most of the way that you're deploying him for G2. If he can play on Vigil and force a team who showed on Oregon that they have some struggles coordinating with their drones, to waste all that time droning out a Vigil and isolating you, it's going to strengthen the excellent players that are on site. G2 doesn't really have any weaknesses on this roster. So if you can isolate Doki early on, get a pick or two, take an operator like Buck, who can then get those kills and immediately pivot to soft destruction, which is what Good Boy did, you're going to set your team up, the rest of your team, for success. It's unfortunate that a single player ultimately cost them that round by not covering what ended up being the single most important angle in the way that XP played out. We have a rehost, by the way, because there was a drone bug, so if you're wondering what the tech pause is for, G2 is just now loading back into the lobby.
Do you like the tunes we're having here out in Brazil? Can you roll your R's?
Brazil.
I don't know how many casters can. I know some of them can't. And I think we should find that out sooner rather than later. But I'm loving these rhythms. I'm loving these rumba rhyme. You're a musician. You're a musical man.
I am sometimes.
You come from far away.
Okay.
What do you play?
I play guitar.
Guitar. Doo-doo-dee.
Of course, which there's absolutely zero guitar present in this song that we're listening to. This is entirely composed electronically.
This could be like
I don't even think a real instrument was used here. This sounds like it was all done digitally. So I do love that tone though. Wom, 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 wom.
Maybe that's a guitar, and that's why you love it so much.
Certainly not.
Do you love your guitar? Do you kiss your guitar?
I have never kissed my guitar.
Happy Valentine's Day. Duo. But that, for my money, was FearX's best attack round so far, and the closest they have come to success. This is their map. So you want to see a little bit more. You expect to see a little bit more, but also, this is a tough game. You're against the reigning champions. You are the underdogs. They will be the underdogs in every game that they've played. Let's be honest. Of the rankings of the teams that have come into this, of how they've performed internationally and domestically against their sort of co-compatriots from their countries and continents that are here at the same tournament, FearX are that sort of low number with a very recent roster change and a very recent coach change that is the biggest. And I'm not just saying that as a sort of idea of who's come in or what's changed, but when you get a coach that is from an entirely different region into a team that has never had any staff or any players or anything from a different region, it's huge. It can be great, it can be terrible, it can be tricky, and it probably usually is, especially with a communication barricade, because everyone starts having to work in their second language. And, you know, developing that over a time is tough. Developing that over a short time of 6 weeks. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but you'll hopefully just get a couple of tastes of new things. Look at this. Every single G2 player seems curious about what might approach from the windows. And Doki is the one that suffers. Caught out the grenade. We got a grenade kill! Woo! Mephi kills Doki with a grenade. Doki, how does it feel being probably the only person who will die to a grenade at this major?
There's something that got brought up yesterday was, are we going to see a grenade kill or not? And, I mean, obviously the answer is now yes, but at the time I would have said probably not, no.
Well, there it is. It is Doki.
I
Put it on the bingo, fresh! Oh, I'm fresh from Hull.
Wow. So this round is G2 largely standing still because they didn't know that FearX was going to sprint in with a minute to go. And honestly, kudos to FearX for making these changes. They've assessed the fact that G2 had too many chess pieces off-site and just go for it. I mean, when you're defending bar games on that main floor, it's very common to put somebody in basement underneath to rotate up through blue, and that's exactly what happened. They knew that Benja was going to be there, and when you have a numbers advantage, you can keep on it. But if you're going to vault through Mudroom and just take an engagement after doing minimal droning and win 1 or 2 gunfights, it sounds very simplistic, but it really just boils down to, okay, we got 2 opening picks. What do we do now? Okay, drone quickly and just move. Because there's a very high likelihood that how quickly all those kills came in succession, G2 has not been able to communicate with each other where exactly these players are coming from yet. You just simply can't communicate it that fast. So you can run them over, and that's exactly what FearX did. And honestly, that was one of the best FearX rounds that we've seen so far through this matchup.
Things you love to see. Things you love to see. 2-1. FearX, they've got themselves their 4th round of this showdown so far, but when you're looking at Chalet as a map, yeah, it's FearX's choice. G2 opted to start on their defense. They're happy to go to their attack second. It works well for attackers. It's not entirely split towards one side or the other, as a lot of other maps seem to be, although the tournament in general, I believe, has had a defensive-leaning sort of ratio. The sort of statistic makes sense. We have a very powerful set of defenders at the minute, to the point where everyone's sort of saying, oh, what do you get rid of? There's 5 or 6 need bans. You don't have the same translation onto attack. You've got the pressure of time. You're looking at a decent selection of guns that have been added towards the defenders as well. Even Kuro's got a DMR, which is always terrifying. But we haven't seen too much of the Iceman.
Is that what we're calling him?
The Iceman. Yeah, we're going to call him that. You know what? You know how they say what's in the canister?
Yeah.
I want to know what's in the Zoto canister, because it's colder than, like, thermite. And thermite is used to, like, weld, like...
We exist in a universe where operators pull
ice cubes.
Pull giant metal rods out of their behinds to then reinforce walls. So, I mean, we don't...
Located by attackers.
Also, EMPs of any size smaller than, like, a bomb are just not possible. And Thatcher has, like, little...
EMP?
Basically, like, the size of a pool ball.
What's the
like
Ocean's 11?
I don't know. I watched that movie once.
Wow.
I mean, Nick and I actually kind of talked about this yesterday, as obviously...
Yeehaw?
You didn't need to do that. You could have just used your MP. I don't understand why.
He needed to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's... Obviously, since we had the rehost, it's going to overlook the fact that Toki got a 4K in the very first round, which is quite impressive. But Nick and I talked about the application of Tubaro, or however I've heard people use different pronunciations.
Apple's calling him Tubby.
That's bad.
Yeah.
And Hap should feel bad.
Yeah.
You should go back to his live, laugh, love post. You should live, laugh, learn to pronounce. So, but an application on Chalet really doesn't make a lot of sense. I think he's a suboptimal pick when you've got Solus on the board, when you've got Fenrir on the board, when you've got Azami on the board. You usually pick those. Like I said back in round number 1, I really like this Fenrir ban from G2. When G2 was on attack, Fenrir was ultimately what was tripping them up a lot, and it allowed FearX to get a ton of kills on Oregon solely because of what Fenrir does as an operator. If G2 wants to go quick, Fenrir is going to slow you down quite a lot and really hurt you in gunfights, which is the area in which I think G2 excels at.
Does Rin know? Yes. Turns out, Rin able to get a second for the round, removes Virtue from the cross angle, but look at the timer on the left of your screen, friends. I'm joking. Top middle, it's where it's always been, and they're about to see if they can try and get to somewhere they haven't been, which is down inside the site itself, but the smokes will stop them. These are those issues that we talked about with this roster on attack, is they just struggle with their time management. At this point now, it's do or die. They have a 2-body advantage, but no time to make it work. The kick goes cold on the snowmobile stairs. Benja makes sure a second goes cold as well. Suddenly it's a 3 versus 3 with only 6 seconds on the board, and for all the pace and the work, they've got to try and scramble, get this down. It'll just take Alamau on a rotate. If he goes unchecked, it's Alamau, but he's locked out. Just covered Uno, fighting tooth and nail to the 2 versus 1 here. Cannot get the spray on the stairs. Suddenly, they've pulled themselves all the way back round. He's going to try and bait the first fight. Gets the lockdown perfectly. That's that experience we talk about, the 1 versus 1. He knows he has to put the pressure onto Mephi. He knows right where he is, and he takes a lot of damage on the swinging round. Mephi gets FearX cemented, and they just made it happen.
I am a little confused as to why Benja took the engagement on that garage panel so quickly with only 5 seconds left. I wonder if it was a lack of time management for G2. Maybe Benja was just feeling really good about his shots, but you've got the case on the stairs. All you need to do is sit on it and deny it. At that point, it's a 3v3 with literally 5 seconds left. Your main priority at that point is stop them from getting the case. Now, Benja knows there's one playing on the panel on garage down below. Okay, perfect. Take that engagement, lose it ultimately. But more importantly, you know that the time it's going to take to get from the garage panel to the case to get back in and plant is longer than 5 seconds. You're more worried, or you should be more worried, about somebody pushing from main lobby. Benja changed his focus from what could have been more advantageous, just fight main lobby and deny the case from being even picked up, and win your team on time from going for a challenge down below. Benja obviously got a 2K right before that. He's a much better player than I am. Obviously, Benja knows what he's doing. This might come as a shock to you. However, if Benja takes the engagement upstairs instead, which they must have heard because there were players moving through main lobby, they make footsteps, it's quite loud. Unless comms were a mess, if G2 had have instead focused on preventing somebody from getting the case on main stairs, which is exactly what ended up happening, G2 wins that round without the diffuser even going down. I have to kind of question why Benja chose that target of them all. And I think it might have made more sense to run up and waste time in lobby than to waste time on the garage panel.
FearX with 2. If they get 3, I mean, to be honest, that's sort of what you'd call any team's good attack swing onto Chalet. As I said, it is more of an even half. It is something that can, for some teams, lean into an attack benefit. And I think G2, even with their sort of direct drives towards the site, will find ways to punish FearX on this itself, because, well, there's even less structure that's kind of offered to you against those freewheeling gunners. Talking of freewheeling gunners, Benja, the opener here against Demic quite early. They almost get the second. The Nook nowhere near as sneaky as they believed they were. Doki, they're going to just keep pushing towards the fight for a bit before they sort of go, actually, they might come in onto Mudroom, they might come elsewhere. I'll still hold on to the bottom of the main stairs. Good boy. Has to opt for a different route through. It is being watched just as intently. They don't know about that, but I don't think he knows about Uno, who is just sort of saying, look, we know there's a player down there. We know they're a sliver of health. Doki, you've got one staircase. I've got the other. Either has to rotate all the way back around, or he'll suffer that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was just perfectly read, but there was no pressure on Uno to ensure any safety from Good Boy. Alamau gets Mephi. There's Doki getting Rin, and just a shutdown.
I mean, I have to give credit to Rin for how they're playing this particular round. Okay, Rin obviously on Oregon went. I didn't see the numbers that popped up on the screen. I don't know. I don't even think they did pop up on the screen, frankly, because we had that tech issue and just went straight into the game. But I think Rin's opening score was 0-6 or 0-7 or something like that on the previous map. It was not good. Playing safer is probably the biggest thing that Rin needs to focus on. It was something that Rin needed to focus on in Damwon Kia, and now obviously that extends to FearX and the way that it's been played so far. Arukazi, I think, is just wasting time at this point and allowing his team to likely communicate. Because why bother burning a timeout when you have an opportunity to do that right now? There's 5 players of G2 still alive. The only one who's taken any damage is Benja Master. It's really not an ideal situation for FearX.
He's just running back and forth on the window.
Yeah.
With the D.
I mean, Alamo's having fun.
Come on, Alamau. Get the dig. Arakaze gets 1. He's going to do the hop out on the window.
15 seconds to go.
And there it is. Yep, you got it. Excellently done.
No dig, though.
Carl!
Carl, where's the dig?
He gets it done.
1 dig, Carl. I remember that episode of Jimmy Neutron.
The Carl is from that.
I know, Walking Dead. Carl.
No, it's from the llama skit on YouTube.
Carl.
Llama that,
Oh,
eats
yeah. There's so many Carls.
You know, I hear there's millions of them
I don't.
in the world.
I don't listen to you. I'm doing a whole physical bit. It would work. If we were on camera in the middle of the game, like I requested.
They're not going to cut to us when they got the players that they were getting. Nobody cares about us. We're not the main characters of this match.
What?
Look,
But I'm doing
G2
this.
needs to broadcast their match to their dozens and dozens of
But
fans.
I'm doing this.
For those who can't see, she is swinging her leg.
It's very impressive. G2 Rainbow Six on Twitter. They got a new Twitter opened up.
10 seconds left before.
Did you say G2 got a new Twitter?
Yeah, have you seen they've now got a there's the main G2 Twitter, but there's a G2 Rainbow Six Twitter as well.
Attackers are getting after
They
the
followed me. Did they not follow you?
I,
A little bit awkward.
I have no idea. I check Twitter like once a day and wasn't on that now.
Oh, okay.
Outside of maybe like posting Instagram stories, I don't really use social media anymore. It's very nice.
Yeah, you live in a hut, I've heard.
I mean, prior to getting into esports, I barely used social media at all. Like I didn't. I
Wilderness
barely.
of
I used
Canada.
Instagram like maybe every couple of weeks. I
You
didn't use Twitter. Like I don't find much value in social media.
You are
I use it for the job.
y-
That's about it.
You're a Bigfoot sighting.
Are you making a joke about my appearance or?
exposed.
Oh my. Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah, Benjamin Master,
Benja just jumped out of
main window,
the window and got a kill. Okay.
top of my west main.
Yeah.
Hit the. I mean, this is a confidence of Benja that I'm really happy to see. I don't know. Well, I don't know. We might have been cast at the same time. The Benjamaster game yesterday was more of last I saw Benjamaster. He was having a fantastic performance, which he wasn't able to do in Atlanta. Struggled.
Now, it's okay to be sitting outside a West Main window as Rin is currently doing when the bomb site is only a couple feet from that side of kitchen. But you can see from the immediate responses that FearX has that they are frightened by G2's unpredictability, and frankly, for good reason. Again, FearX have not been that proficient through both of these maps at drawing first blood, and that is a huge problem for them. So, if Rin is still in the same spot 30 seconds later, and again, it's okay, but where are your drones? You've got 6 drones available. Obviously, all of the clutch drones have been shot, so the Bravo for Good Boy is not going to be particularly important at this point, and now obviously is dead, and so is Rin. But all this FearX team seems to want to make West Main the major focus. Demic dies, now it's Arakazi again. It was a 1v5 last round, now it's a 1v4. This first half looks like it's going to go to G2 on a more favorable side, and G2 obviously picked the side because it's FearX's map. But G2 going up 4-2 is a worrying sign.
Yeah, I mean, I think we sort of always predicted that this was going to be a 2-map series, just because of the competition that you're up against. You're up against the reigning champions, and there's only so many times you've got to reiterate that. Arakaze is being hunted now. He's probably going to find a fight down the corridor. There it is. It's just being forced out of the map. Look at this. G2 is literally bullying the one remaining player with 30 seconds left in a 4 versus 1 out of the map. They're not even letting him try and attack them on the site. Alamau has typed.
I believe he is sleeping.
I believe he has fallen asleep. Well, he is dead, so.
He also was yawning. But the entirety of this matchup occurred in West Main.
It's the place to be.
The thing is that, and again, I don't want to speak down on FearX, and I apologize to people who think it comes across this way, but the rounds that G2 are losing, for the most part, are because G2 is losing them, not that FearX is necessarily winning them. Obviously, the difference to that was the rush that came out, I think it was in round number 3, if I remember correctly, when FearX had everybody in the building in the first 45 seconds. The round was effectively over within the first minute, but it goes all the way back to Oregon. G2 are a team that they excel by doing things that are kind of, let's be frank, brain dead. G2 does some brain dead stuff. You've got Doki and Alamau who can get away with it because they're immensely skilled. If you're playing against a team that is very unpredictable, which in a lot of ways I would argue FearX is, then it can come back to bite you pretty hard. And my issue with G2, and it's always been this issue that I've had with this iteration of the team, is that it seems like they can't right the ship after the round starts to go poorly.
Yeah.
It seems like when G2 loses, it just snowballs and they hit the GG go next and then, focus up for the next round.
5 seconds left.
It happened on Oregon. It's happening. It's happened a couple rounds here, obviously, on Chalet, where they lose 1 or 2 picks and they don't really have,
Locate a bomb and defuse
I
it.
think, the wherewithal to consolidate and use what they have left to try and keep this one close. And again, credit to FearX for punishing that. A bad team would not be able to punish it.
G2, they need to be able to really take one site at this point on their attack to push this into the end zone, but you feel like if they get a bit of a repetition as before the open. With their clean rounds at the start, before a timeout, to be fair, from Dark did
Bomb
bring
located by attacker.
FearX a little bit back into the previous map. Virtue sat with the bees ready, actually, to try and get the rotation on the barricades, just rebuilding the back end window. They have the mirror, they've got the castle and the protection of double as well, as just being removed at this point, because otherwise it cuts off the rotation. The bees will force some of the motion of the player. Alamau gets one, Arakaze gets revenge, and there's a double for Arakaze. Huge potential player as the keeper gets some rebuild and restructure. The tuck around the corner, Avenger's still able to do some work, but it's worked right back against them. Suddenly it's just Mephi though. Uno's going to see if he can stick it. A fantastic execute comes through from G2. They had control over pretty much the whole round of the site. Blind into the close box. Perfectly played. Buys them a second to get into position. Uno pulls back. They have the crossfire. They're not entirely sure where the player is. Now they are, but they're on the wrong side of the mirror window. So they drop down. There's 30 seconds. They don't need to go into this engagement. They know exactly where Mephi is, and Mephi is trapped. Has to try and fight a way out. Hasn't seen the rotates to his left-hand side, but he's going around the back of the site once again, playing chase on a player who is just toying with the motion in the ocean at this, but the only thing that's being rocked, I think, is FearX's round. Not enough time to get to the diffuser and get it at this point. Gets at least a kill on the way out as the pistols spray through, but the two remaining players bought all the time in the world.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I love confidence that G2 brought to that round. They were very methodical about it. They got in quickly. They knew what they were doing. Yeah, they lost a couple gunfights, but ultimately the plan was get in, plant in bedroom, and get out as quickly as possible. And they had the good wherewithal to do it. You know, G2 really trusts each other. You can tell that G2 trusts each other when it comes down to the cut and thrust of a round. So they trust each other. They get in. Obviously, when a player like Mephi is still upright, who I think is the best player at the present moment on FearX, despite the fact that Arakaze is doing better in this particular matchup, I think Mephi is, to me, the scariest player on this team. G2 were able to play a perfect. You called it the flashbang and how successful it was. It was perfectly timed. It was perfectly placed. Kudos to G2. And if they can do another offensive round right now, attacking round like that, then this matchup is probably over. I just frankly don't know if FearX is able to come back from that.
Okay, well, they are one away from being on series point and being on the wrong end of a potentially quick showing on their first day here, but they won't go home after the end of the first day. It is the opening game, and it's not just a sort of statement of FearX, but anybody often struggles. Look at G2. When they came in onto the first major in Copenhagen, they got there into the playoff stage, the sort of middle area, and they weren't quite up to the same pace as the teams that had had those warm-up games. The teams that were technically lower seeded were able to hand G2 some games that, well, when it came to the opposite side of it, and G2 were the ones that fought through the early stages and days into playoffs, they were so warmed up, they were so ready to get in. The day, the difference a day can make is always going to be a potential factor in how you can rise up. The hold here, we're not seeing the West main take that was otherwise attempted really consistently from FearX. Instead, this is something I would say is more traditional. Lock down the controls above, see if you can sort of cement some of that vertical control. They might try and go for the double down, get box wall open, then get the wall of dining and see if you can tuck just behind the bomb chassis itself and offer yourself just some protection, but that means forcing out the players that are otherwise just sat above that luxurious dining table. Mahogany wood.
What type of wood do you think?
I think it's mahogany wood.
It looks like mahogany.
I love mahogany.
It's my favorite type of wood. Do you think they rub mineral oil on it?
I
Because
think
raw.
it's slathered in mineral oil.
Oh my god.
And Uno is slathered in the blood of Rin.
Rin to die early is obviously not good. Down goes Good Boy. Look at this. Again, look at how quick G2 is. 90 seconds off, and they've already put so much pressure on. That was not smart. And
If Pengu was here, Alamau would get kicked off the team because he would go so mean on him.
I mean, that was a Kino play, exactly. Yeah.
3-2 with a minute. Benger and Virtue. I mean, they're two players. Virtue, he gets the kill on the top of the second. Virtue's been able to pull it off, but Jimmy drops the flu.
Benjamin's not even in the building, by the way.
He's outside.
He's not even in the building. He's almost got the pick here on Pandemic, and oh my. Yeah, I mean, 40 seconds left. G2 were so fast.
Oh no! Imagine if that was how it ended. I mean, it got Benja close. That isn't, I mean, with a lot of other guns, that would have been the end of Benja. It is.
So it's worth noting that Benja has a Rotero drone, too, in fact. That could kill Demic or at least force him out of the spot. And yeah.
Oh, Demic!
Quite well played by Demic at the end, but honestly also sloppiness from Benja. After the fight occurred inside a trophy, Benja should have gotten in the building. Why did you stay outside? You know it's a 1v1. Why are you making it so that the only way for you to get in is to vault through a window? You had an opportunity after you fought on those stairs in trophy and Demic repositioned. You had a very brief window of opportunity to start pressuring him by vaulting in and basically getting rid of the best thing that Demic had going for him, which isn't Demic's own skill. It's the fact that the only way to do anything is to wait until you vault in, because the single most vulnerable time you are in Rainbow Six is when you're either prone or you're vaulting through a window or vaulting over something. The fact that Benja played that relatively incorrectly is not great. And I mean, obviously, this is the second time now that we've seen Benja make kind of a puzzling play in what seems like a relatively winnable situation and then pick the wrong way to do it. The first one obviously was the diffuser on stairs in the main lobby, and the second one now was failing to take up map control and staying outside of the building with 35 seconds left. And more importantly, utility in pocket that could be used either for intel or to dislodge that last player.
Were you in the good graces in the books being able to cast any of Brow yesterday, or was he banned?
No, we saw him actually quite a bit yesterday.
Nice.
Noodle played him a number of times in the very first matchup. And then I want to say he played him once or twice, or maybe it was a show. And then he was banned out in one of the matches of MAD versus W7N yesterday. But honestly, not a ton of tube play. Why are you asking?
Well, I was going to see if you wanted to break down Zoto canisters and talk about them, but they're
Yeah,
easy,
I mean, as
easy breezy freezy boys.
Those are just like the roly poly oly boys that sends you. You know?
Exactly. Sorry, that's the British translation.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we'll talk about it as the application is there. We saw 2 rounds ago, I think it was, the cryo obviously freeze going on the wall of office. But at that point, G2 were able to just cut through Solarium. So ultimately, you stopped Alamau at the time from really being able to do much on the piano wall, obviously, and then the walls in office. But G2 split their forces up. I am interested to see how it's applied this time by Arukaze. Because as you can tell from the right side of your screen, there's no hard breach other than the 2 pocket hard breaches that Uno has. So G2 is just going to go for gunfights. And I mean, hey, it wins. Benja Master walks in, gets first pick straight up.
Yeah, Rin's able to get the end of that, and there's Rin with another. They're just holding on to the top of the sort of green stairs, and the greenery shrub is being chased. There's 2 players running from Benja, who's just hopping over the wall itself, and both of them were like, no, I don't want any of that smoke, chief. I'm gone. Doki. At the top of Snowmobile stairs is these boogie drones boogie their way across the boards and smash all of this verticality. It makes it very awkward to hold this site. You can absolutely destroy anything that is the semblance of a solid hold towards that back end. That wall is, see, Doki just play against it as well. There's more of Virtue's boogie drones. Look how horrifying that is. Imagine how that looks when you're down there. Well, probably actually a little bit more illuminated by these angles that are being entirely just decimated across the hold.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the sound, too. It's not even so much the destruction. It's that it's a very loud noise above you. And if there's a push that's coming alongside it, very similar to how in the early days of using Gridlock, you throw out those track stingers, and because they make such a high amount of noise, you can use that almost like for concealing your position. Ram's gadget works exactly the same way.
Smoke grenade!
Smoke grenade goes around the corner, 20 seconds. The 4 versus 3. They still have some of this working into their favor here, but you've got to try and use the C4 swing on. The pressure's there. They lose. The vertical player, Good Boy gets the kill. Great catch onto 1. There's 1 and 2! Smashed on the pick back round. Cannot hold on, though. Good Boy and Arukaze get the lockdown. And suddenly, FearX, they get themselves a 4th round. They get 2 on the bounce. They keep themselves away from map and series points.
So here's something funny to note about that was G2 did the exact same plant that FearX did against them, and it was Benja in the exact same spot, but just on the opposite side of the equation, where when it was Benja on defense trying to stop the attackers from getting the case on main stairs, he picked the wrong target, missed his shots, and died. Benja's the one that's supposed to be overseeing the plant. The plant goes down successfully. Benja was flawless. Shoots the C4, gets the 2 kills as they both emerge from blue. And it looks like G2 is in an excellent position to hang on. But then Benja turns, loses his gunfight on the same place that had happened just 5 or 6 rounds ago. And suddenly, now FearX are back in the game. This is a far from certain matchup because if you're FearX, G2 picked the side they wanted first, which suggests that G2 will be less comfortable on attack. FearX should be able to pick up a couple rounds here.
10 seconds remaining.
It's as close as it's going to get so far, and this is the closest we've seen this matchup today.
Want to watch me swing snowmobile stairs? Want to watch me do it again? Ben's energy.
Defuse the bomb.
Energy.
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 Were you I don't even need to ask this actually, but Barbie
By
or
your gunner.
Barbie or Oppenheimer? Who are you more closely relate? Like, what is your soul set?
I mean, I didn't see Barbie.
Well,
I saw Oppenheimer, and I thought it was good.
I think you have good energy because
I have good energy. All you do is beach.
all you do is shout.
Not today, I'm
you
not.
could 100%.
Not today, I'm not.
You could have been one of the. If any of our co-casters were Ken's single purpose and no brain.
Relaxing.
Okay, yeah, but
'Cause he's gorgeous.
he is stunning. And keeps trying to get all of us to go to the gym, which I appreciate,
Give it a rest, man.
but it's not gonna happen.
Give it a rest. I don't want to go to the gym, Gabe.
Relax. Baby, not happening. Take Jesse. Imagine Jesse, but Jesse's hench. Imagine Jesse, but he's like Hulk Hogan, wider than he is tall. Imagine Jesse bench pressing fresh. Imagine Jesse punching through a wall and saying, "I've got stats for you, friends." Doki punches through Rin. The only stat he's got is another entry statistic going away from him. There's the second, cooked up in the kitchen, and the third! Virtue! Swinging around like it's nobody's business with the power of a saloon door kicked open, says yeehaw, and heads off down the prairie. Arakaze, all that's left, he's trying to cool down one side, but when G2's this hot, it's going to take more than just a peppering. Have a little bit of chill. Locked out by Doki on the back end. G2 get themselves up to map and series point. And we have a timeout.
Not a surprise to see the timeout get called here. And I mean, obviously, both teams get to speak during the timeout. So G2 will nonetheless go in and be able to talk too. Here's the thing that I said about G2 is that they like to play kind of sloppy. They like to play kind of fun and loose and all that. And it's a hallmark of their play style. You know, like those ego challenges that we see, the individual hero plays from G2s define them for a large part of the last year, if not even longer than that, frankly. You know, they're not as cohesive as, say, like a W7M is as a team, but the play style is really up to what you think works best. When you have the players on G2, I don't fault them for making that decision. But they haven't been paying a lot of respect to FearX. And again, FearX are one of the top 20 teams in the world. That's why they're here at the Six Invitational. If you're not giving them the respect that they deserve, they're going to punish you for it. And that's what we're seeing. FearX is punishing G2. When G2 makes mistakes, FearX is there to capitalize. Now, that's not to say FearX isn't making their own mistakes. They've made far more mistakes than G2 has, and G2's punished them quite a lot. But 2 rounds ago, G2 made some interesting decisions. The round before that, another interesting decision. That was when Benja didn't get inside of the building. You're making these mistakes, which are relatively poor mistakes for a team of G2's caliber to be making, and then G2 turns around and absolutely crushes you the next round, which is a nice, solid reminder that G2 are capable of doing this pretty much every round if they want to.
Yeah.
But they're not. And go back to Oregon, and a number of those rounds, it just seems like G2 wasn't really playing up to their full potential. Because I have to imagine there's been a conversation that G2 has had amongst themselves where, why are we sweating so hard? Why are we exposing strats on a team that we can not necessarily try as hard against and still ultimately prevail? And I mean, the saving strats conversation has happened a lot. G2 is actually the epicenter of it way back in the day. They started it. But it's true. G2 can just play kind of a ranked play style, play default strats, and not show anything in depth, and not give anything away for their opponents. Even if it costs you 4 rounds in this map, who cares? You're still going to win. And I think that's the way G2's approaching it.
2 opportunities to lock this out on map 2. And that was the generic prediction, was to see it get to this point. I think on the second map, FearX, they've definitely been able to improve as to their Oregon. We have seen them get a little bit more heated, a little bit more confrontational. The game that's ahead of them, and a little bit more cohesive with each other as well. A couple of these moments of going, okay, this is how I can do this. This is how I can play this game. Unfortunately, Good Boy might not be playing the rest of this round. If he does get Alamau, though, Good Boy's down just below the site. Doki's trying to go for the hunt, but he doesn't want to get caught out. That's how they got Alamau on the split. He's just sat on the far side, and there you go. Removes one. There goes Mephi. Uno's able to put the pressure towards the site itself. Benj is just holding on. Further rotation. It's a 4 versus 3. Well, make that a 4 versus 2, 3 versus 2. It's juggled still back and forth. That spraying and getting some motion in Arakaze and Demic, but he's not on a huge amount of health here against what is still a team laden with a little bit of utility and a lot of bit of health. The Bees go over the top just to get some clarity onto this mirror window, which is currently unoccupied. Uno's going to open up box on the back end just to give themselves that bolt plant towards it. Demic does find Virtue, though, and suddenly they've freed up all of the backside towards the site. They have somewhere they can sort of rest and keep themselves protected from the approach. Doki could rotate. He's going to see if he can try and instead get a little bit of split, a little bit of width towards the angle. Uno's holding onto one and wants to get the cover onto the plant itself as the smokes come through. There is a C4 in pocket from Arakaze. He might go for the catch here. The pings are coming towards it. He goes for the rotate. He's making the motions. He gets the spray on the player, gets the drop. Doki now inside Piano. He's looking for the first fight. It is being held. Demic holds off Fearless Fox's demise for one more round, but one more still separates them from overtime.
It looked like Doki thought that the plant was going to go down and was already pivoting towards a post plant, which this is a lesson for basically everybody who plays this game. The plant isn't down until the plant is down. It doesn't matter if there's 1 nanosecond left. There have been countless times that when we've been watching pro play, somebody's on the diffuser, either disabling it or planting it, and you can't even really see the bar anymore. But it doesn't matter because the job's not done. And when you go to plant that diffuser, you cannot start to move into a post plant until the timer runs out. Great job by FearX to read into that. Great job by Arakaze to push up and stop the plant from going down amidst the smoke. Because, frankly, I don't think FearX should have gotten away with that. But a little bit of negligence by G2 and a great read by FearX is all that matters at the tail end of this round. And honestly, it started out so strongly for G2. They've been doing what they've been doing all this second half. Aggressive, get opening picks, take map control. But when FearX, again, has good gunners and can fire back and immediately respond to that aggression, you're going to be in trouble. Doki falling off of that coverage at the final second, literal final second. Going into a post plant, you've now cost yourself the plant, and there is no post plant. You die in the 1v2. It's a new day, final round of regulation, but if I'm G2, I'm not particularly happy with some of these rounds. Going back to what we said, obviously, doesn't matter if you win at the end of the day, but frustration will start to set in on G2 here if they can't close it out.
There's something exciting is happening in Tim's life. I never know. I haven't actually checked if the streams can hear each other. They definitely have been able to.
They can hear each other.
All right. 6-5. FearX. One more round here. See if you can try and push yourself into OT. You're still having these moments, and I do like that they were able to fight back. After losing that entry statistic, they then lent in, got the kill onto Alamau. Of course, the player that went down even further. Mephi takes a bit of a blow. Doki's inside the site. He's holding on, and, well, suddenly the alarm bells will be absolutely screaming. I've just been dropped inside the site. Doki's going for the plant as well, and you're thinking you need to sort of react to this. You know at this point they're in there. Where's the motion? It's 45 seconds. Good Boy does find Alamau, but with the control against them, Rin is just shooting down towards where the player was. Uno's able to get one more across the sort of bow of the second story. Good Boy needs to do a vertical retake before he can even go for the site retake itself. They're putting some pressure down onto the back end. Looking towards the trophy side as well, which Virtue's got locked down. Benjamaster gets Mephi, hops in for the swing. Benjamaster gets one more, and that is all she wrote. G2! They're able to find themselves sung round and sitting pretty. 4-4. Maps played, maps won.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit scary there, especially towards the end. And just to sum up that round in particular, it looked like G2 didn't want to necessarily hit the site that quickly, but they discovered that it was open and free for the taking, so why not? You have the site at your control. Take it. The problem is you have to make a determination at some point. Is the site open because of negligence of the other team, or is the site open because they want us to take it and fight us in the post plant? And the way that G2 responded after that diffuser went down leads me to believe that they were not expecting to be able to get a plant off that early, and FearX looked like they were anticipating an early plant, especially by how Good Boy was hovering inside a lobby, perfectly placed to catch anybody who was rotating upstairs towards lobby, or anybody who was going to push from over towards library side or play long range through dining. Again, FearX had a good idea with that one, but just because you know what you're going to do doesn't mean you can pull it off. And I mean, that was kind of the story for FearX. It seemed like a lot of rounds knew what they wanted to do, but they just couldn't do it.
I think the split as well at this point, I'll need to double check. It might be dependent on the result we get later on in the day, but might have secured themselves escape. It wasn't really in there. I thought that G2 was good. My notes don't say that.
Apparently the noise gate wasn't picking us up.
Oh, really?
That's really unfortunate.
Well, there was a whole bit we did. Throw the bit away.
Garbage. Get rid of it. Get rid of it.
It's been got rid of.
Get rid of it.
That series for Fearless Foxes, we can still talk about some positives. They warmed up in the second map. There's definitely more of a ceiling, definitely more of places to go. Oregon itself was a little bit too far away from the approach. It was too far away from, I suppose, the idea of, you know, how can we bite back against the champions? They were struggling. They were a little bit incoherent on Oregon, especially on their attacks as well. Here, we saw these moments where things had gone against them and the round wasn't over. They had the ability to try and find a little bit more, which is, let's be honest, something they haven't really had recently.
No, and honestly, I know that we talk about map pools and needing strong map pools for best of threes and then eventually a best of five should you make it to the grand finals. But the way that FearX played Chalet, yeah, you might not beat G2 on this map playing that way, but you're probably going to beat other teams at this event on Chalet. So if I'm FearX, yeah, I'm obviously not happy with the result. Nobody's going to be happy with losing 0-2. No team on the planet will be. But if I'm FearX, I'm happy with a lot of the ways that you played Chalet. Retakes, being able to answer aggression with aggression, being able to exploit opportunities as they present themselves. But there were that particular moment right there with Virtue. There were so many times that, again, like individual hero plays by some of the best players that play this game. G2 is 5 of the best players in the world on their squad right now. No team is going to be able to match that every single day. So the fact that FearX was able to take these many rounds off of G2 on Chalet suggests to me that this is a winnable map for FearX against other opponents. Obviously, the big issue is Oregon. Oregon didn't look very good. You got to figure that out. You got to decide what other maps are good. And if Oregon is really that dreadfully bad for you, what are you banning? You know, go back to the map bans. If Oregon is that bad for you, you got a bad map pool, and you got to work on that. I don't know if you're going to be able to get it done at SI, obviously, but it would be a worrying sign for me for FearX. So some positives, some negatives. You reset, ready yourself for the next match.
Benjmaster, he had a great series yesterday. I talked about the importance of what he could sort of bring to this roster. He was the star rookie of the last SI. He was an SI winning star rookie.
Yep.
And then he got a little bit quiet. He wasn't quite able to have the same impact. It's not that the honeymoon period passed, but whether it was the construction that they had before, here, today, and yesterday, he has been back to a bit of a form, back to a bit of a blowout performance, and in how hotly contested modern Siege style is in terms of having a superstar pop off, it's a weird sort of return to this, okay, we need a talisman. We need this tip of the spear. Even on a roster of 5 superstar players, 5 of the best gunners around, having the one that can just decimate everybody, this is the result.
Yeah, I mean, and you gotta. The question I gotta ask is, why was Rin brought onto this team? What was the purpose of bringing Rin on? Because if you look at these 2 maps that just got played, Rin's just not getting the job done in any role, even as a support player, which Rin obviously is not. Those are bad numbers. You know, 2 or 3 kills on Oregon, 4 kills here on Chalet, and you're playing those hard minutes. Rin is roaming on defense. On attack, Rin is usually one of the first 2 people in the building. If you are consistently getting out-dueled time and time again, and on defense, if you are making these really aggressive plays, swinging the doors as we saw on Oregon, swinging windows as we saw on Chalet, and losing consistently, is somebody on FearX going to be able to rein Rin in? Because if you're not, nobody is able to, and Rin's going to keep playing this style. Rin is going to continue to be a proverbial boat anchor, as we saw in the last 2 matches.
You know what they're missing?
That'd be Taylor.
A eureka moment. I don't mean a eureka moment. Hey, here's the standings. Here's the standings. G2, as I said, they might have secured themselves. It might depend on the NIP Dark Zero game, that it's to be played as game 3 of today, I believe. Oh no, game 2. It's up next. There's a schedule somewhere. You guys can all find it on the Google. GK obviously can still sort of fight for a place, and it is the first game. There it is. Thank you, perfect. It is the next game on this stream. Dark Zero versus NIP. That might, depending on that result goes, if NIP lose, I think suddenly we have a little bit more of a split, and NIP are in a dangerous position. If there's numbers to be run, my friend.
I mean, we're glossing over the fact that FearX actually did better today against G2 than NIP did yesterday, which I think would surprise an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
But just because you got 2 more rounds, I didn't get to watch all of the NIP game yesterday because I was prepping for my cast, but from what I did see, NIP did look downright bad, and we need to call that out as we see it. But again, I don't think necessarily that NIP G2 game was G2 making these mistakes. I think NIP had some better looks than FearX. And of course, the big thing that's covering it over is the fact that Chalet was quite a good map for FearX in comparison to that Oregon. So, I mean, again, yeah, obviously I think NIP right now is kind of that wild card because they're in dead last in the group. If they lose to Dark Zero, they're in a real troubling spot.
What we do have is our intel highlight as well before we go to a quick intel highlight.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
With what?
I have loads of energy.
I know you do. You always do.